Wait a minute. Hear this.
Birdy num num. Birdy num num. Birdy num num.
What's up, ladies and gents, and welcome back to another episode of the Birdy Num Num podcast. The BNN having a good week as always. I really hope you all are having a good week, and I'm going to get straight to it this week. Enough with the pleasantries. I have a question here that is very important and near and dear to me because literally I was this person. I have been this person. You probably may have been this person if you listen to this podcast. Whether or not you're engineering, you've probably struggled with this. And I read verbatim. Hey, sir. Ooh, I'm a sir. Uh-oh. I said, hey, sir, and my Siri went off. All right. Okay. Hey, sir. I'm an engineering student. Being a student is tough. Okay, I'm an engineering student. Being a student is tough because maintaining all studies and submissions, giving up sleep, it's difficult for college hostler students maintaining health and fitness and studies together. Can you help with that with a podcast? Yes, I can. Yes, I totally can. And you may like what I'm going to hear. You may not like what I'm going to hear. But let me tell you, for those of you who are saying engineering is difficult, being a student is difficult, I completely agree. The good news, however, learning long division is difficult. Learning math is difficult. Learning how to write cursive or even how to write or being in the 5th grade is difficult when you are that age, okay? But like anything, as contrary as it may seem these days, society usually has a point for a lot of the stuff that we do. A lot of it does get outdated, but let me tell you, everything is for a purpose. And point number 1, life is going to get a lot easier. I honestly believe. Some of you may disagree with me, but let me tell you, I never worked harder in my life than I did in high school or college trying to pass my computer science exams. That was the hardest thing, learning about Dijkstra's algorithm and linked lists and trying to do these projects and theory and data structures. And I know this is the basics. I don't know what happens now with Python and Hadoop and Hive and NoSQL and MoSQL and YoYoSQL or whatever, but I never worked harder or studied harder or stared at code and just wondered what the hell am I doing than I did in computer science courses in school. And when I was taking management courses, yes, they were boring and they were spreadsheets and there was number crunching. But for some reason, engineering just always seemed the most dry and boring and distracting. And you know who I feel bad for? And if this is you, I don't mean anything by it, but I had a lot of friends in ICS 21, Information and Computer Science 21 Basics, where people would go into dude, I remember I studied a semester in Singapore and there was this cool white guy, from California, surfing and all that stuff. And he's like, yo, I'm going to take this Introduction to Artificial Intelligence class. It sounds so dope, humans and Star Trek and data and who are we? And I was like, I was a junior. I was in my 3rd year of college when I did the exchange program. And I was like, oh, you're going to join us for Introduction to Computer Science, Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. Oh, this is going to be good. Because this guy thought he's going to be looking at an Android robot talking about the history of Turing tests and are we human, are we not? And it was about philosophy. But no, it was about hardcore math and coding and understanding logic and that sort of stuff. And this guy dropped out within a week. And a lot of people, even in the introduction to Java, which is easier because we didn't have to program with ones and zeros. We had to program with object-oriented programming when I started. They all dropped out in a day. You know what I mean? Imagine, why would you give up on something so early? Imagine if you were trying to learn a language, I don't know, Chinese or Japanese or Hindi or whatever. And on the first day, you didn't know how to draw those characters, or you realized you had to memorize 600 characters. Would you really quit right then and there, not knowing what you could do with that later? And I'm not saying you got to be an expert, but my point is everything is hard for a reason usually, especially as you get younger, all right? As you get older, things get a bit more complicated, but also they get way easier, all right? Yes, Java is hard. Yes, engineering is hard. Yes, all that math looks very dry. And for you, my dear, who wrote this, I must tell you, my dear, it's never been harder for you right now, but it's also never been easier. You know what I mean? A coder these days can Google everything, can find the answers to a lot of solutions. And that's why most people at their offices, once you learn how to write a basic program on your own, if you can code, okay, here's a small litmus test. And you could disagree with me, guys, but if you could program a basic calculator on your own without Googling for any sample code or any GUI libraries or anything, if you could do that on your own in 2019, you could probably pretty much do anything. Or at its most basic, if you could Google, or sorry, not if you could Google, I'm feeling lucky. If you could probably make a basic Hello World iOS program or Android program without Googling for any assistance from scratch, I guarantee you, you're going to be fine. And like, I mean, honestly, because once you do get a real job and you're working at a big company, you're going to have all the resources at your disposal. No manager at a big company is like, all right, I need you to make this library so we can fill out an auto suggest search feature in our app, but you can't Google for anything. No, they want you to get it done. They don't care how you do it. All right. That's business. Okay. So my point is life gets a lot easier. All right. So for the most of the engineers out there who are like learning about all this technical theory and concepts and have these boring projects and they got to like jump up on the math and the science and the physics, like do it, man. Like if you have time, and I mean this very sincerely, if you have time to be on Instagram and message me, and I appreciate it, but if you have time to watch all these TED Talks and motivational talks and spiritual people, you have time to do the work, dude. Nobody wants to do the work anymore. And yes, there is a lot of BS work out there. Even when you get into a big company, they will give you a lot of point and click and test and raise bugs, a lot of crap work as well. But there's always time to do work that's going to be valuable, and you may not see it. And trust me, I'm not saying you got to do all of it, but unless you are like, look, if you're not caring about your CS assignment because you already know how to code and you already know how to make video games like on your phone or whatever, more power to you. Go ahead, work smarter, not harder. But most people, and I say this sincerely, in India, especially the engineering discipline for most colleges is like a bread and butter factory where they're just trying to churn out people, and a lot of colleges, but especially in Indian colleges, we're just trying to churn out people who will then go make. Ooh, it got dark as I got dark. Did you guys? If you're watching on the video, the light literally just changed. Now it's like so dark and look. The thing about Indian, like people. My point is, like, people try to just turn out engineers and get jobs. And here's why we are middle class. Why is engineering and medicine popular in the middle class? Not because we are so passionate about engineering or medicine. Hell, why are most engineers and doctors who make money, they end up being landlords and buying flats and renting them out, right? Why is that popular in our society? Because it's a blueprint to the middle class. Because we know you do engineering, you do science, you will have the 3 BHK flat, the 3-bedroom flat, the job in the US, whatever, right? So the point I'm trying to make is it's not very difficult. It's difficult now, and I do feel bad for the young people because it's never been harder to be distracted, okay? To not be distracted. It's never been harder for a young person in 2019 to be focused, all right, is what I mean. Like, I get it, you know? And I'm sure I've said this before, but I read this quote that intelligence is not, like now intelligence is not going to be what you read. It's choosing to know what to ignore. So ignore your social media feeds, ignore that your friend seems to have a great job already at 23 and got an opportunity somewhere else or got a job at Facebook or whatever. You need to focus on this boring engineering crap for the beginning. I know it feels like crap, don't get me wrong, but it's literally like eating your vegetables. It's like when you're like feeding a baby and you're like, eat this freaking mutter or peas or like crushed up carrots, and they're like, no, I want chocolate. Like that's what you're basically doing right now as a 19-year-old. You refuse to eat your vegetables, but as we all know, especially now because everybody's vegan and healthy and all that stuff, this is your vegetables and there's no shortcuts. Yes, you could probably Google and cut and paste code. And yes, we all cheated in college and made our way. And I'm not saying I'm not saying cheat, but I'm saying do what you got to do to get the good grades. But this is the game of life. Okay. And like everything seems like it's pointless, but here's the alternative. All right. Let's assume you're in an engineering college right now. You have the pressure of your parents. They've worked really hard. They're spending 1 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakhs a year to put you in that school. They want you to help out with the house once you start making 1 lakh a month, 5 lakhs a month, $10,000 a month, $5,000 a month, or whatever it may be, 500 pounds, 500 pounds is pretty crap, I would imagine, if you're like living in the UK. But anyways, like, I get it. You have all that pressure, but welcome to the club. So did all of us. Okay. And everybody did it. And the good news is, if there are 500,000 Infosys engineers and 500,000 Wipro engineers and 500,000 Accenture engineers and a bunch of other people and a bunch of other Manjunath Infotech Private Limited down the road, none of those people are any dumber or smarter than you. You are literally, why is it called middle class? Because it's in the middle, because it's average, okay? And at the very least, you can do that, because one thing I will always say, until the day, well, I don't want to go there, but one thing I will always say is, if you can pass a basic engineering or computer science exam, you can pretty much do anything. And here's the thing, it's not hard to do that. There are history teachers and professors and 65-year-old men in America or wherever who are learning coding and trying to write HTML and CSS. And look, man, I did a 4-year computer science degree. I passed, not with great grades, but I still end up Googling everything. If you ask me to even write a WordPress theme from scratch, there's no way I could do it. I mean, I could read the PHP code. I could kind of see what's going on, but the syntax, I'm really not getting my head around it. I can read the comments of the code and understand what the modules do. But do you want to be the person who's just writing the code, or do you want to be the person who understands it and then can also be smart about business with it, right? Like, a programmer and software is nothing without people using it to make money or automate a task or whatever it may be, right? So, like, get your ABCs down, and then your life is going to be, you don't have to. One thing I wish a lot of engineers realized is, it's not about learning engineering. It's about learning engineering so you know what to do with engineering. I always say this in a lot of my other videos on the Sanjay vlog channel. And I really believe, and I really urge you, eat your vegetables, all right? It's not very difficult, okay? So, yes, it's difficult. Did I just make no sense right now? Okay. Like, what I'm saying is, as I looked at like one note that I wrote for this podcast, as my camera cuts out again, what I'm saying to all the jaded engineers and angry techies and people who are 20, 25, or even 30 or 35 is, like, it's going to get a lot easier, dude, because here's the problem with most of us who have quit corporate America or corporate India. The majority of people do not live to their full potential. And you probably don't understand it right now, because when you're 21 or you're in school, all you care about is dating, having fun, and starting to make money. But like anything in life, if it's worth doing, it takes effort, dude. You know what I mean? So, like, I feel bad for you. You have Instagram, you have social media, you have video games, you have YouTube, you have even this podcast, which can be distracting. But I like to think of this podcast as infotainment. I really hope after you're done listening, you get back into your book, or, you put away your phone, or you just read that damn text, or whatever it may be. And most people, a lot of even stand-up comedians, but most engineers, what do you guys do? You like read your book for 10 minutes and then you waste 40 minutes on social media. And then you get back to reading your book, but you've neither committed here nor there. So although you think you studied for 2 hours, you really did half paying attention, textbook reading, and just trying to get through the page so you can go back to your Instagram feed for 5 seconds like a freaking junkie. All right. So my advice, please, please, please just know you're going to graduate very soon, and it's going to get a lot easier. Because once you have cleared that exam, that knowledge is there. You know what I mean? Like, it's done. Like, I wrote a book last year or the year before, and I was scratching my head 15 hours a day trying to finish it by the deadline. But once I did, I was like, wow, that's going to work for me forever. Like, while I'm sleeping, people are going to buy that book. Even this podcast, people are going to listen while I'm probably on the beach somewhere, or I'm just hanging out, or I'm working on the next thing. So, people who say that engineering is difficult, dude, so was eating vegetables, so was learning handwriting, so was learning Hindi or English. You know what I mean? And it's not going to be that difficult. You're going to I feel bad for people who quit engineering too early, because then they're like 30 working at some insurance company or some marketing job or on some BS Excel thing for some business admin role. And had you just put in the time a little bit, when you were 20, 21, you would have a lifetime. Because most of the engineers I know in corporate America or India, by the time they're 30, they're not even touching code. They're just doing PowerPoints and trying to sell stuff. And yeah, a lot of it is BS. And yeah, a lot of people, why do you think so many 30, 35-year-old men, women in corporate anything, they drink and they smoke? And I mean, I love all that. I used to love all that stuff. I haven't drank and smoked in a while. I'm not judging you if you drink or you smoke. What I'm saying is they go out and they distract themselves with the extra income they have now because they're not really satisfied in what they're doing. So rather than let yourself get to that point, study this engineering stuff and then use it properly and live to your potential, my friend. So I know I kind of rambled. I thought this would be like one of my best podcasts, but I think I was all over the place. But let me know what you guys think. But trust me, dude, it's so worth putting in the time right now. And the most intelligent people, as I said on the last, the people who are going to succeed 5 years from now, the 25-year-old or 30-year-old billionaire you read about 5 years from now, whatever that person might be, is the one who did not sit around quitting engineering, getting drunk, and just looking for some easy way out, but is the one who dove headfirst into that. Ironically, probably put away his or her phone to spend the time working on something that would get you onto your phone. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Evan Spiegel from Snapchat or Zuckerberg, or on a much smaller scale, like the kids who are doing, not smaller scale, but on a small, like the kids who are doing the Ola apps. Those guys graduated in 08. They're younger than me. I've done gigs for Ola, the founders, right? And I'm like, wow, this guy's a billionaire and he's like 3 years younger than me. And like, their whole game is getting you to book cabs on your phone, but they are sitting there looking at, drivers and hiring and government regulations and all that stuff. So the people who are going to succeed are going to be the ones who don't run away from these challenges. And they're not even challenges. Everybody gets through engineering. So I get that it's hard. Trust me, all of us, I graduated a computer science degree. I could barely probably code a calculator by the end, but that was more than enough to get a job, at any company, because we figure our way out as we graduate, right? So don't feel like you have to be this crazy PhD CS expert. Don't feel that, you're the dumb one, because we're all idiots when we finish engineering. We literally just kind of stumble our way to the finish line. And I guarantee you are right there with everybody else. So all the challenges you have, all the feeling that why is this guy not studying for 5 minutes yet he tops the exam? How does he know that or she know that? They study, they just don't tell you about it. Okay. So, or they study for a good solid hour without their phone, whereas you study for 5 hours, constantly distracted, not doing proper studying. So I hope that answered your question, aside from just saying, just deal with it. I just want you to know you're not alone, but I also want you to know real intelligence is knowing what to ignore. And honestly, you study 3 solid hours a day without your cell phone near you, you'll be just fine. So if you have any questions, let me know, comment below. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you next week.
Birdy num num. Birdy num num. Birdy num num.
That's